Hello, everybody. How are you? I may have to close my window shade here. We've got a glorious sunny day. So, how is everyone? Let's see all who's here. Susan's not going to be here today. She got her first vaccination, and I think it's given her a little headaches. I had a couple of headaches from mine, too. So, I understand that. But Mark and I had our second vaccination this week. It went off without a hitch. In fact, the little gal who gave us the vaccination, I just got my fingers hung up because of these rings. I wear them when I want to be fancy, but I like this thumb ring because I had a doctor one time tell me, he saw me with a thumb ring on because I think they're so cool looking. He said, do you know if you catch that ring on something and you lose that thumb, you lose the whole hand? He said, because try doing anything with just your fingers. It's really hard. Made me think about it. And then I had a woman who I taught a quilt class to who had a pinky ring on, caught the pinky ring in a door, tore her finger off. So she doesn't have a pinky now. So when I saw a thumb ring with a gap in it, I said, yay, I can have a thumb ring again and enjoy it without worrying about losing my thumb. So I don't know why I said that. I saw the ring and it made me think of it. So, I know, because I caught the open part, caught this other finger, and I was kind of like trapped. Like, what are they called? You know those the Chinese finger puzzles? You put your finger in and when you pull back, it tightens up. So I love my rings. It's funny. I told Mark, you kind of wear a uniform in this life. You kind of let people know who you are by the uniform you wear. And so as I've gotten more and more into quilting, I like wearing more bohemian type jewelry and more bracelets and rings. And it's just kind of to let people know that I love color, I love excitement, I love art. So, you know what makes me happy? There it goes. So let's see all who's here. I see some great, great names. Let's see. You don't know how excited I get when I see all of you. So, Alexis is here. Polly, Sonia, Marcia's here. Miss Polly's here. Polly, aren't you glad for the rain that will knock this pollen down some? At least I hope, maybe for 5 minutes. I worried when I saw the wind blowing so much today because I said, now it's going to be all over. Pollen will be everywhere again. But anyway, so Jean Pooler, hi, sweetie. Jean, I hope you got an invitation to join our group's IO. So, and then here is Patricia's back from Nova Scotia and Laura Rylander. I've got a Nova Scotia story. When I was 16, I loved biology and I signed up for a summer marine biology course. And I was raised in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So anything to do with the ocean, I was in. And so I got accepted into this marine biology course. And we had the choice of between going to Nova Scotia for our big summer trip or Key West, Florida. Well, I chose Key West, Florida. I'm sorry, Patricia, in Nova Scotia. It's just when I found out you could only swim for 20 minutes at a time in Nova Scotia because of risk of hypothermia, I thought, I'll head down south, okay? So I went down south and we went snorkeling, and I went snorkeling with one of the assistant teachers, and we went down and picked up fresh lobsters for dinner. And down in Key West, they don't have the big claws. So you could pick them up. And I had a problem a lot of the girls had where part of my anatomy floated better And so I tended to get sunburnt along my bikini bottom. And so I just put my hand with the lobster on my lower back, and I swam back to shore. And we cooked those puppies. Although one of the kids had the cooled down pot of lobster cooking water dumped on him. He smelled bad for a couple days. Anyway, I might start telling you some more of my stories because I had some interesting stories growing up. So, Laura Rylander. Hi, Laura. And hopefully, Laura's a member of our group SIO too. Because you know what? We're going to, when I go to see my grandbabies, Susan's going to do a jitsi for y'all so that you won't get too sad at not seeing her. Alberta Powell, hello from Alabama. Wow, that's great. And so anyway, let me see. Is there some? Michelle Lang is here. I love my Michelle Lang. So, oh, Laura Rylander, you are a member. Good, good, good. Because, you know, once we've seen you, we know who you are. We want you to be a part of our group. So, and I don't mean to be too protective with our group, but I like to know that we are all quilters and artists of some type because we really do share in our group. And I like that. I like that we're a community. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out just the right angle for my camera without cutting my top of my head off. Oh, I want to say something right while I'm thinking about it. Whoops, wrong way. See that gorgeous strawberry quilt on the wall? Last week, I incorrectly identified it as a Jill Lily quilt. It's not. It is, and I have a great Jill Lily watermelon quilt that I'll have up next week. But this quilt was designed by wonderful Wendy Shepherd, and you can still find it on the internet and get your own copy because it is a fun and perfect May quilt to display. And you would find it under Strawberry Delight, and it's by Wendy Shepherd. So I hope that if you like that quilt, you'll go find her pattern. So just wanted to make sure. And my new eye color. So anyway, all right. It is so great to see all of you. My room is a mess, okay? Let me show you. Everywhere you look, there is stuff piled up. But, and I have a cartoon later to show you from Miss Pat Fry that I think is very appropriate. And that is when you're being really creative. That mess is not mess. It's creativity. I have been a mosaic and stained glass full this week and almost every day just focus on our art quilts that we're doing on Thursday nights. And the last 2 nights I stayed up till 3 a.m. working on them, feverishly trying to get them done. So let me go ahead and show them to you because I know that we're supposed to be working on our binding tool quilt, but I'm so anxious to show you these. Whoops. Now, you know what? I want to know something. This should be a good investigation. How do thread spools, how do these threads come unspooled when they're just sitting there and you're not touching them? You're not messing with them. I want to know that. And then I want to know, how do they get so tangled up? Have you ever noticed that you'll have a simple, happy spool of thread or two in my basket that I carry up and down the stairs? And then today I pulled them out and they were like like they've been fighting in the basket. So I just, inquiring minds want to know, how does that work? So I get so tired of it. Sometimes I have them sitting up on my table by my chair, and all of a sudden, yep, there they are. They're all unwound, or they're all tangled. And I'm like, wait a minute. They've just been sitting there. I haven't been messing with them. So that's a question I would like answered and possibly solved. Okay. So, hold on. Careful when you shake it and it's only been fused. That is one complaint I do have. I think I should have, instead of using Steam and Seam 2 Light, I think next time I'm going to try to find a stronger one, because I just shook this quilt and this flower just came flying off. And I don't appreciate that. So let me see, where in the world was it? Oh, there it was. Oh man, the glue came undone. And I used good glue too. I have no idea. But I watched, when I was working during the middle of the night, I watched a really sweet movie, and it was called The Seven Faces of Dr. Lau. The only thing that bothered me about it is Tony Randall played the part of Dr. Lau. And I'm a little sensitive about non-Asians playing Asian parts. But you know how it was back in the 60s. That's what they did. I mean, how many Italians played Native Americans? So I guess we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But that is a sweet, sweet movie that just teaches gentleness and acceptance and love. And I thought that was pretty cool. All right, I think I've ironed this back on. I think I'm ready to show you. Who remembers telling me to put sunflowers on my garden gate quilt? Let me see if this makes you happy. Okay. Are you ready? Here is my garden gate. I was going to do a vine growing up the gate, but as Mark so succinctly says, he has a way of just kind of cutting straight to it, He said, get right busy there. So now what I'm going to do is, there's one thing I'm going to do that's been bothering me. Let me show you. Oh, no worries, sweetie. Oh, and I do want to say, I've had somebody say, Deb, talk up people, please, have people hit like on your website if they like it. And they said, because we want to get you more likes. So I said, well, I just always feel like I'm begging, and I kind of hate that feeling. But they said, no. So anyway, just remember, please, I've got to remember it. Maybe Linda, if Linda can remember it for our Thursdays, because I think that's the one because Susan's real good about remembering it on Sunday. But, well, this glue is good glue. But I've been a little disappointed that the fusible, doesn't work better than it does. Well, I wanted to be able to show you real quick how I was going to improve this pattern. All right. And so I'm going to take this part off too. Let me see. Well, it's giving me a fit. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up pulling all of this off on the quilt because the sun just looks stupid. I didn't do a very good job of designing that. And now I'm able to get it off. I had to give it more attitude. But this is what I was going to tell you about this. If you see these dots on the fabric, do not worry, because if you wet them good, and it comes from the glue on the black fabric, leaving stains on the fabric. Well, what I found last night is if you get it wet and you give it little rubbing, it will come right up. The black from the fabric is on the glue, not the fabric. So if you give it, and you got to wet it pretty good, and then use a wash rag to kind of get it up. But you see how now that's cleaned up really good? So don't worry when you're working on an art quilt. Don't worry if you get some glue or discolored glue on your quilt. Now see how that one's coming up? So it just takes a little bit of effort. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and put the sun rays just on this part, because I just didn't like the way they looked. So anyway, I will work on this when I have some of the black fabric kind of unraveled when I was pulling on it. So I will put some new blacks on there, but I'm just going to put a few fun, silly rays on here, and that is that. And I took off the rest of it. Then I will wash this off, because the rest of it was looking so sweet and cute, but the sun rays just looked goofy. And you know what? I told y'all when I designed this, I hadn't had a chance to test it yet. But one thing I want to get through to everyone is don't be afraid of editing. Editing is such an important thing for any artist to do, because what it looks like in your head is not necessarily what it's going to look like in fabric. Let me move this back a little bit so I can show you one more time. But don't worry about the dark stains. Oh, I forgot. I've got a new member of the neighborhood, and that is my little goldfinch, because goldfinch love sunflowers and purple coneflowers. So I hope you like it, and I think the sunflower idea was wonderful. Thank you for whoever. Hi, Kathy. I have no idea why it was trying to. Okay, there we go. Kathy said, hi, hello, everyone, and it held her up. What is that about? But anyway, so whoever said do sunflowers, thank you, thank you. And then I was able to put my purple coneflowers right over here. And I kind of like them masked like that. That looks sweet. And then I did my little Rudbeckias or Black-Eyed Susans down below the sunflowers. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm happy with it. So what next, once I figure out the sun over here, what is next, we'll be figuring out how I'm going to quilt it. And I will probably use polyester batting so I can get a little more loft and try then to, because it's a stained glass design. I hope I haven't been saying that wrong. Because it's a stained glass design, and I didn't put extra fabric, in fact, in between It's less fabric. I can reinforce that look by stitching in the dark. And that will make then the fence post and stuff stand out. So that's what I'm going to try for. The one thing I must do very first thing is stitch down all of the flowers and the bird I put on. And I think I'm going to use invisible thread and just give it a nice little zigzag around. Because as you just saw, the fusible alone doesn't work. So anybody that I would suggest, if you go to use raw edge applique and use fusibles, that you also get yourself some invisible thread. This is YLI, and Superior also makes one. And get yourself some invisible thread and stitch everything down. Because there's nothing more heartbreaking than pulling a quilt out of storage and things have fallen off. And you know what? I don't know if you're like me, but I tend to never get it repaired later. It kind of breaks my heart, and I kind of tend to ignore it, and that's not good. So now, the quilt I really bonded with, and there will be, what's wrong? Something's going on with Patricia. Oh, yeah, yep. There are a lot of countries. Is it France? They're having renewed lockdowns. So, in fact, England, I think parts of England. So it's tricky. That's why we need to get all of you to please get your vaccination. If you at all possibly medically can, get one. If we get enough people vaccinated, then we'll move on. Like Australia, they're having a good time over there. So if we want to start having a good time here, we've got to get our vaccinations. Yay, Kathleen Ziegler. Everybody who's gotten at least one vaccination, raise your hand. That is wonderful. And I personally thank you from the bottom of my heart for two reasons. I love you all and don't want anyone getting COVID or getting sick. And number two, let's really love our fellow human beings and get the shot and do our part as a good patriotic American, okay? Yay. So I've got to drop this shade. It is getting sunny and bright here. Hold on. It was so nice yesterday. It was all rainy. So Mark and I we just camped out on the couch, and I worked on my mosaic all day, and he slept and checked. He loves looking at YouTube videos, and so it was nice. Yay, Jean. I love that. Yes, Pat. And you know what, Pat? I just read, you won't believe this. I just read, and it said if you've had COVID, you might have more of a reaction from your vaccination. And you were so lucky that you and Don didn't. So I'm so glad. Heat back on now. Yeah, our temperatures are warming up. It's going to be upper 60s, maybe low 70s today. And you won't believe this. By Thursday, they're calling for 86 degrees. 86. You're losing your mother-in-law to the effects of COVID. 7 months of languishing. If that doesn't, the day I came home from getting my second vaccination, I bring up the news. And what is it? A 37-year-old man with 5 young children died of COVID. So please, people, this is nothing to make jokes about. This is a serious, deadly disease. Okay, guys? And Laura, our hearts break for you. I am so, so sorry. Yes, I tell you what. And, people say, well, what if, something goes wrong or the vaccine makes you sick? Well, I can tell you this. Out of all the millions, even with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, with the millions that were given out, they had 15 people with blood clot reactions. That is the teeny tiny. If you spit into a big swimming pool, that's the equivalent. But I can tell you this, If you get COVID, the chance is like way more that you're going to either die or have serious lasting complications. So please, please. And Laura, we're going to keep you close to our heart. That's got to be just devastating, especially if they survive the initial infection and then you lose them. So, honey, we are so sorry. We are so, so sorry. I'm going to turn on the light so you can see my mosaic quilt. Are you ready? Now, I try to be humble, but I don't mind if you give me some oohs and ahs over this one. Are you ready? Here is my mosaic koi. Here it is. And I have to tell you, I'm in love with it. I'm truly in love. And I think one of the things that I'm so surprised about is my koi looks so realistic. Look at these fish. Look at them. Look at that. Look at this one. I did a calico one. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Oh, I just saw I'm missing a square. Thank goodness I saved the extras. But that's why I'm sitting here going, you know what? If I were smart, I hate to put netting over it because I don't want to dull it down. I'm thinking of putting the invisible thread on and just going over this puppy. Doing it before I quilt. That way when I quilt, I can have movement and moving things around. Laura! Oh, so I'm really happy with this one. I love the way I did the dark blue swirls through because I feel like it gives it a lot of motion. And I love the lily pads and the lily flowers. And so to give you some advice, make sure you have space. Oh, no, wouldn't that be cool? That might be cool. I don't know if it would blur some of the images, but that would be cool. But make sure you leave enough space. Some of the pieces I tried to put on bigger pieces, like in the flowers, but it kind of messed up the look. And I went back and cut them and spaced them because you really want the mosaic look. The bigger the item, the bigger the cut pieces can be. And as you see, I got rid of the shadowing. That I thought that was going to be just too confusing. Now, this took time. Time I've got, but it was not hard at all. Well, the hardest part is continuing to glue these puppies back down. I'm thinking about putting it on my long arm because that way I don't have to shove it through. Because if you fold it too much, like I was going and checking to make sure that I was checking it to make sure I had enough clearance between some of the fabric pieces. And whoops, where does this one? This goes like this. And so I was folding it, kind of creasing it so that I could then carefully trim if I needed a little bit more of a grout line, because that's what you're doing. You're pretending that your background fabric is the grout, okay? So I used a dark gray, which I think really showed up well as the grout. So I'm real happy with it. Then I've got to look through my stash. I'm so wowed with this quilt that I want to get I don't know yet what to do with the border or binding. I don't know whether to just square it up and bind it or to put a border. I just don't know. Most of the time with my art quilts, let me show you my art quilts. with my art quilts, I do what looks like a picture frame. And I'll put in a little color that makes it look like what do they call it? When they frame artwork, mat board. I do like a linen look mat board. And then I do a picture frame. But I don't know how I want to finish this one. So first thing I'm going to do, and I don't know exactly what to do, is I'm going to go look at my stash. Because you always hope that something will jump out and say, hey, use me. I'd be perfect. Because otherwise I sit and look at it and go, what the heck am I going to do? But anyway, that wall hanging. Diane 57, hello, hon. So good to see you. I was just thinking we hadn't seen her in a while. So good job. All right. Oh, a thin finish of similar gray. That might be good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on here, leave it as a circle. I could do that too. I'm going to put on here our time to quilt at twc.com. Whoop. I know I can type this. Okay. If you would like a free pattern that comes with the photos of this, I give you photos of the koi and the flowers to make sure you know what they look like. If you would like to get a free pattern of this or the garden gate that I just showed, then please send me an email to ourtimetoquilt@twc.com. I will shoot you out a pattern or two, whatever patterns you want. And that's the best, fastest way. Because when I go on the email, I see it, I handle it, boom, it's done. So thank you. Okay, so I've got a couple circles. I will definitely check on that. Oh, you do love it so much. Oh, so I'm just, anyone who really wants to make that, on our Art Quilt Thursdays, I do a detailed explanation. But the main thing you need to do is get a good fusible. Next time, I'm not going to use a light version. I'm going to use a big, strong version. And you just take, and the fabrics you think you're going to use, I use strips about 3 inches wide, and I put on the fusible, and I iron the fabrics on the fusible. I like steam machine too, because it's sticky on both sides, so you can peel off one side, put the fabric on, iron it. Then I took, and I thought about using a rotary cutter and ruler, but then I said, no, when people do mosaics, they have these snips, and they cut the glass that way. And I thought, no, I want it to look a little more rustic. So I just took full-size scissors and just cut strips about 3/4 of an inch wide. And then I would take the strips and cut them crosswise to about 3/4 inch square. Now, on the small things like the water lilies, then I would take those squares I'd cut and cut them further into quarters. But I found that with a lot of the different shapes, you kind of got to give them a custom cut anyway. So keep a pair. These snips, anything that's just, whoops, well, don't throw it at yourself. But these work wonderfully. And I like it because I have arthritis. And I like that it's so easy to just pick and snip it. And with the small blades, these are Fiskars. And with the small blades, you can get in and kind of do some of the interesting shapes. I'm noticing my left arm is so weak. When you work on this all day and into the middle of the night, your arm gets a little tired. So I'm not going to be lifting my arm too much today. All right. Well, today we're supposed to talk about the binding tool star. Oh, And last week I was looking for this because I said, oh, I think I'm going to make a butterfly to put on a flower on the stained glass quilt. Well, as you can see, this is bigger than the little bird I put on there. This one's too big. So I'm going to make a brand new one to put on the garden gate. And that's the fun. This is my year of embellishment. And I've got the little bird sitting on the top of the gate. And then I'm going to do a butterfly and put it right on one of the sunflowers or the coneflower. But it's going to have to be smaller than this. But I want to let you know, I did find it. So, because I don't know if y'all remember, but about, a month and a half ago, I made this. And this is just thread. There's no fabric involved in this at all. I don't know if you can see the light through it, but it's just thread. And you use a water-soluble stabilizer. And you make sure to be able to do this because you're making lace. See that hole right there? You're making lace with thread. But I do it a little bit heavier. But what you have to do is you don't do straight lines when you do this. You do all kinds of curlicues because you want to make sure that all the thread is interconnected. If it's not interconnected, once you wash out the stabilizer, all the threads would fall into a puddle. And you don't want that. And another thing that I do, you might want to use 2 layers of the Solvay, the dissolving stabilizer. I put it in a little ring, and I put it so that the fabric is flat against your sewing machine table. And that way it'll work. And I draw my design on it with a permanent pen because if you use a water-based marker, it dissolves it. So you have to use a chemical pen, a permanent pen like that. But anyway, what I do is when it's time, see how mine's got shape? And it dents in like this. See how I can hold it like that? And I get excited about that kind of stuff. So what you do is when you go to rinse it out, don't rinse all of the Solvay out. Only rinse a half of it out. And what you do is you put it in warm water and you just kind of massage it with your hands as you're dissolving the Solvay. And only do it enough to where you feel like maybe it's half as thick as it was. Then you take it out and you towel dry. Just pat, pat, pat with the towel. Then you get it molded into the shape you want and then gently sit it down. I sat it on 2 spools, in between 2 spools of thread. Put it in the shape I wanted and sat it so it would support it until it dried. Once it's dried, it's yours. Now, the little wing part, the bottoms of the wings and the little antennae, they're hard to do. They're so thin. So what I have learned to do is take good thick glue and put it on your fingers and rub it on the little delicate parts. Let it dry, do it again. And what that does is it gives it enough stiffness that they stand up. Okay? So that's a real quick tutorial on making a thread lace butterfly. For my mosaic quilt, I'm going to be making an iridescent dragonfly. And it's going to be sitting on the water lily, the leaf, the lily pad. And so I will be showing you how to do that on Thursday nights during our art quilt live streams. So, all right, I showed you that and told you that, and now it's time for binding tool. How is everyone? Am I going to do a tiny black line between the pieces? On the mosaic, because on the mosaic I'm not. I'm letting, if it needs a little pop, I might try to do it infinitesimal. I'll get one of those. Oh, I've forgotten. Here, is this one? Nope, that's not one. There is a permanent marker. I've got a case of, oh, here it is. I love it when I can find something easily. It's like, Deb, you did your job. I might take a micron. And if I find some areas kind of get lost in the shuffle, I might use fine tipped. I mean, this is so tiny. You, it's the smaller thing at the very end of this. It's even smaller than the silver part. So I might use this just to make sure it gives it a little punch. But that will be on the edge of the fabric part, not the background that looks like grout. The grout's going to stay the gray. But I might have to, because I did notice in some of the cases where the white part of the fish is the lighter part of the water, it kind of gets muddied a little. So I'm hoping that's what you were thinking. And could I cover it in Mod Podge? Oh, the butterfly? Yeah, I bet you could. But you don't really need to unless you want to keep it like where it can be wiped down and make sure that, like, if you wanted to reinforce it. I am falling out of love with Mod Podge just because so often it has a sticky finish. And I kind of like the other acrylics, like the triple thick, diamond glaze or triple thick. So just kind of try. But what I find is the early things, paper beads and stuff I did with regular Mod Podge, they're just kind of sticky. When I go to mess with them, they clump and they break apart. Pardon me, they break apart pretty easily. But I don't like them sticking together. Yes. Now, I haven't even taken that. That is not yet done because I haven't, either one of them, I haven't taken and added little things. Like to the fence, I might add little signs of nail holes. Oh, and I don't know if y'all noticed, but in the top where I had the gaps, I filled it in with white so it would look less like the roof of a building. But I still have my ink tents to do on these. So it'll be kind of fun to see what I can come up with. Like a few little bruised edges on the fence and a little more shading in the flowers. So yeah, that definitely comes next. Thank you for mentioning that because I forgot to add that. But to me, an art quilt's never done until you finish with the ink dyes or the ink tents. Doesn't mean you always have to, but trust me, it's like makeup. It never hurts. So anyway, okay. Now, any questions? Oh, in fact, I'm going to show you. Talking about the koi eye, I noticed that when I was doing the research, they had, on the koi eyes, they had a little bit of a silvery look and then the black eyeball. So what I did to get the eyeball on the fish is the very light, the very, very lightest turquoise I used as a backing to the eye. And I found it did a great job of giving that eye some realism. So I just love this thing so much. I really do. Now, in a couple little areas, when I was trying to trim the edge better, I ended up cutting through the top layer of fabric. And it's only a tiny little grout line, but if you held up to light, you could see through. So I just cut off a piece of the edge up there that I know I'm going to trim anyway and glued it on the back. As long as you're not seeing it, doesn't matter. So, yeah, that would be neat. All right, so now I'm so excited, and I'm really hoping some of you are going paper mache beads. I haven't made paper mache as such, but it's kind of like that because I take my paper strips and I put glue on them, take my fingers and run the glue down to spread it out, and it softens it. You have to roll it real fast and take it off the bead winder real fast because it does get soft. Some people make their paper beads and only put glue at the end, but I want to make sure that paper bead is stuck for good. So I don't do too much. Sometimes I'll roll it part halfway, a third of the way, put a little glue, and then finish rolling it. Because I don't know. It's just the way I like to do it. And you know what? I get to do it whatever way I want to. It's so nice. Once you reach 60, if you want to act like you're 2 years old and stomp your feet, you can do it. So the binding tool star, my most successful quilt that I've ever taught. I saw it first at a local quilt shop, and I fell so in love with it and she explained that there was a little tutorial on the Missouri Star quilt, and I went over in that shop and bought the binding tool ruler. Let me see if I can. It's hard for you to be able to see it, but it's a wonderful little ruler. Should be under $10. And you use it. It helps you figure out how to space your binding and do the miter right. But I love it for this quilt. And I haven't decided if I'm going to make it along with you or just do examples, because I have 3. And this one, I need to finish the applique border for the other 3 borders. And then this one, I have to decide what to do with my border. And then I already had one I finished, and that my daughter has. And she said nobody's taking that quilt from her. That is her pride and joy. So I haven't decided if I want to make another one. I think if I could think of a really dramatic color scheme, I may be able to be talked into it. But, all right. So, if you can get a binding, I'm sorry, I just yawned. I didn't fall asleep till sometime after 4 a.m. And then I did sleep till almost 11, but I wake up a lot in the early morning hours. My dogs get out of bed and stuff. So I'm sorry that I'm yawning. I'm a little tired. I might go take a nap when we're all done. But, and see what I told you about being over 60. I might need a nap. There we go. My second daughter, Katie, she would get whiny and cry when she got tired. And it was so cute. When she was about 4 and she was getting all whiny, she said, "I think I'm tired." And it was so cute when she could see it in herself and then not fight taking a nap. Because they'll say, "No, I don't need a nap. I don't need a nap." You know? So anyway, now, if you don't have time to get in a binding tool ruler, I did put the dimensions on a piece of paper in the information I send you. I don't send you the pattern because the pattern is available through Missouri Star Quilts, and it's only $3.95. And they deserve that money to make such a wonderful pattern, and it's downloadable. So you don't have to sit around for a week or two and wait for it to come in. Soon as you pay your little $3.95 plus tax, you hit the download button and you can download it to your computer or print it right out. I would recommend downloading it and then printing it just to make sure you have it. But for $3.95, thank you, Jenny and the Missouri Star Quilt Company. I want you to support these wonderful people who make our hobby so much fun. And but this is their version in the direction. And I was trying to hide that yawn. Did it work? And if you're thinking, do I really want to make this? Go to Missouri Star Quilt Company YouTube site and check out their video where they're making it. And it doesn't give you all the sizes and stuff you need, but it shows you how easy it is to make it. Here is one that I did on my EQ8 that just was helping me work out the colors and placement and what it would look like. Unfortunately, I ran out of room to put the piano key border down the sides, but you get the idea. What makes this so fascinating is depending on the background color you use, it can be all different. So in the first one, I did an off-white background, and see the little squares? See the little squares in there? I did those, the background color too. And let me see something. I'll show you in a minute, but this is not the very best. This is the one my daughter has on her wall, and she loves this more than anything. So I've done it black with the black squares in the middle. Very striking. Then I was making this one, and I try never to do the same thing twice because I get so bored. So what I did with this one, I did a white background with these pastels, but I didn't want all the white dots. So I took the darkest, one of the darkest purples, and cut all of the dots out of that, the little 2.5-inch squares. And so today when I found the bag that I had the rest of the material in, I cut the same fabric out that's going to be an inner border. I'm thrilled that I made that decision. So, because I like bouncing things back in and out of a quilt, that continuity. I'm really big on continuity. I'm really big on symmetry. I wish I could be avant-garde. I'm just not. I kind of like my symmetry. So having that dark purple in the little cornerstones, the little blocks, and having it around the inner border, going to be pretty cool. And I just might have to add a light yellow inner border with this, because that way using the complementary colors really should make it pop. And there is plenty of yellow in the quilt. Now it has different yellows, and I think I will pick a real pale yellow like that, the dimples fabric I've got there. So, all right, I've talked about that, and now I'm going to show you a couple things. Also, in the free pattern that if you want, I will send to you, it has this paper piece pattern. This is, I don't like when you have a piano key border. I don't like it when the side comes up and just shoots past going a different direction. It just bothers me. I like symmetry. So I made this, and you'll get a copy of this too. Print out 4 copies because you have 4 corners on this quilt, and it's paper pieced, and I'll show you maybe next week or the week after. I'll show you how to make this very, very easy, but you'll need 4 of these. Okay, and just to give you a hint, you start, the first piece of fabric you put on here goes right in the middle, and then you place the others and work out from each side of the middle. But you'll get that, you'll get a color of this, you'll get a temporary one of these. That what you could do if you want to start before you get your binding tool ruler, or you don't have time to get that ruler in, is you can take and trace it onto cardboard or template plastic. But just be careful. Do not use a rotary cutter unless you have a nice thick piece of plastic or cardboard that will protect your hand. I also included the notes that I wrote for the class I taught for this. And it just will give you little hints on how to make it a little bit easier. So I wrote to Missouri Star Quilts and said, I'm teaching a class. Can I write up some information? I'm not writing the pattern, just some information to share. They said, absolutely. So, because I found that in teaching, people would rather have more information than less, because one of the things is that fear of not knowing. So Okay, so this will come with it, and it really gives you a lot of good information. Now, the first thing to do when you're making this quilt is cut everything out. Now, it's not that hard. You need some squares. You need 5.5 inch squares, and then like 5 7/8 because they're going to be cut in half diagonally. They're going to make see the triangle pieces? There's triangle pieces, and each block has a triangle. And those are two little triangles that make the big ones. Then you're going to have squares, and you can see the squares there. And so let me show you what I have. Hold on just a second. Let me grab, I forgot. It was so funny today. I meant to come down here early enough. To get more things prepared, but I was tired. So, okay. So one of the things you're going to need is decide what color background you're going to use. And I think you need between 2.25 and 2.5. And 2.5 might be too much, but I'm afraid to go less than 2.25 because any mistake you know, and I don't want you to have to piece anything together. So what I'm going to do here is cut a strip 2.5 inches to make the little cornerstone squares. And I will keep checking. And if you have any questions, write them down and I will check. Hi, Teresa Louise. How are you? It is so good to see you. Okay, any questions? Yes, and make sure, don't just tell me on here that you would like the pattern. Make sure to send me that email because honestly, unless I watch it back and don't miss a brief little mention, I really have to have the request to my email box. That way I know for sure I have your email address so I can just hit reply and send it to you. All right, so I've just pressed my fabric really good and I folded it carefully so that it's pretty even. And I'm going to use my cute little binding tool ruler to do a nice clean beginning cut. Whoops. Okay. Nice clean beginning cut. And then the width of the ruler, I do believe is, 2.5. So I just use the width of the ruler, put it right up against my cut edge that I already cut, and then I run this down like this. Okay? Now, when you cut out I've already got pieces for piano keyboarders. So maybe I was thinking about doing some kind of braided piano keyboarder with this one. I think that would be cool. So let me get all my border pieces out of the way. And I thought I did have still a few. Yes. No. I thought I had all of these. Here's one. Oh, big whoop. I thought these were binding tool shapes, but they're not. I already took the leftovers and cut the leftover strips and cut them into piano keys. So I guess I will be doing piano keys, but I'm going to go on EQ8, see if I can't design something that you can use. These are 2.5 by 5 inch. I'll see if I can go and design a braid with this size pieces. So, Jamie's here. Hello. All right, so I only have 2 of these pieces. Let me get them pressed really quickly. All right. All right. Now, one thing that you have to be aware of is where are you going to put your colors? Okay. Let me move these out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead. Let me make sure. I want to make sure the ends good. They are together. So I'll use the binding tool. Oh, but I was going to tell you, if you have strips and you want to cut your binding tool shapes, you will just lay these on here. And I'm showing the marking method. But if you have a binding tool ruler itself, it is thick enough for you to use the rotary cutter. So I could come in here with the rotary cutter, but if not, you can mark it and use scissors or use a different ruler. And I need to cut this angle right here. And just remember, this one's going to get blunted at the end. So after I cut this angle, there we go. Then I come back in, I lay this tool on here, and this little blunting of the end is important. It just helps you place your binding tool pieces, shape pieces. It helps in the placement of these, okay? But now, I just need to make 2.5-inch squares, so I'm going to come in here. This is perfectly 2.5 inches wide. I mean, this tool does it all on this quilt. So I come in here carefully, hold it down firmly, and trim it. And there's my 2.5-inch square. Okay, so there is that. Now, when you do your cutting, I recommend very highly, I recommend that you have baggies or masking tape and you label everything. Because with these strips, you're going to have a right side and a wrong side. These are going to be mirror image strips. Now, if you use batiks, it doesn't really matter. And because a batik is dyed all the way through. But if you use a regular fabric that's not a batik, then you're going to find that the back side is markedly lighter than the front. So when you cut your binding tool strips, don't forget to fold the fabric in half, right sides together, and cut the strip. Because if you have it folded in half, right sides together, like let's say here are the right sides of the fabric, and I've cut this shape. Then when you open them up, you will end up having mirrored images, a left and a right. Okay, does that make sense? Oh, I'm so sorry, Kathleen, you lost your favorite cousin. Oh, I'm sorry, sweetie. Okay, so now memory quilts give such a sense of comfort. I just love them. All right, so now what you're going to do, all right, hold on one second. I'm looking. Take all the right hand pieces. Now, when I say right and left, you have to have the points facing out because these are going to be facing this way. And it looks awkward. You think it's going to, and so here we go. And don't forget, Missouri Star Quilting has the original. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to, when you first cut these, You're going to separate out the left ones. Then you're going to sew one of the background squares on the end of every right one. And then keep those separate. And iron to the dark, because if you're doing a white quilt and you're doing colors for your binding tool pieces, you will need to have them tucked to the darker side. But just remember this angled side goes to the outside. And that's why I always show you this so you can see how this fits. And it makes a wonderful, complex looking braid. It's just really nice. And so you will do, let me see, each one has 4 of the different colors. Make sure you have worked out ahead, because sometimes for my daughter's quilt, I did a scrappy look. For the quilt here, I did colors in specific order, and I really did like that. So I did those in a specific order. Okay? All right. And now you can see where you would need the triangles. Okay? And the triangle is going to fit right here. Then there'll be a triangle that fits right here. And then the big squares will actually, no, I take that back. In some places, they're going to be triangles. In some places, there's going to be a square. So that's why a pattern really, really helps you. And let me pull this up again. Okay. So in this one, that's why I love having this pattern. But it tells you, first thing you do is you cut everything and label it. And then you take one of your squares and you have the sides that you put together to build it. Okay? And so when you finish, okay, you build it around a square, putting one piece at a time, then you come in with another and another. And it's going to look funny the way it comes down like this. But then what you're going to, whoops, I'm showing it to you. You can't see it. I'm sorry. Let's try this again. All right. Your hair keeps falling out. Sounds like you're stressed, sweetheart. So I would definitely take a really good multivitamin. You might have to check with your doctor to see. Now, right now is a time when your body, you might lose a little bit more hair because your body should be getting new hair growth. But I would say that it would help having a good multivitamin and see if make sure the doctor checks your vitamin B12, your vitamin D, and make sure that you're not compromised in some way with that. But yeah, that's a pretty scary thing when that happens, isn't it? All right, so you got your square, you put your 2 pieces, and you build all the way down. Then when you get that part finished, you take and put your triangles on either side. So this really, really helps. And it even talks you through the inner border, the binding, the piano key border, which I think is a wonderful way to play back off of those, to play back off the colors you put in the quilt. And the one she does on the show, hold on a second. Dogs, hey, hush. She used a deep color for her background, which gave it a kind of midnight or watery look. And I highly recommend that too. So the neatest thing is your binding tool star quilt will look different from everyone else's because of the fabrics and the backing you choose. So take some time when you're making that decision. But I wanted to show you, I've got numbers I had written on one of the quilts, but it is so easy to take a pen and write on this fabric. And let's say I had a pile of these and I want to keep them, Maisie, hush. I'm sorry. My Maisie should have been locked upstairs. She's too barky. All right. So I'm going to take a piece about this long. Let me show you why. I'm going to lay it across the front of this, and I'll mark what this is. And this is piano key. Whoops. Well, I'd mark it if the pen was working. I write piano key border. And I do just enough tape that it will just reach around the edge. It doesn't have to meet up with the other side. But this way, it keeps it together. It's marked. You know what it is. Otherwise, you can use sandwich baggies, and you can still use the tape to write what's in the sandwich baggie and then put the tape on the sandwich baggie. But I have found the most important things that I can do when I start a quilt project is to cut everything out, because cutting is usually our least favorite thing to do, and you're more likely to finish a quilt if all the pieces are cut and ready to go. So put on a good audio book and just cut. Just cut. Maybe give yourself a Hershey's Kissy every time you finish a section of cutting. Whatever it takes, get it cut out. Then labeling. Hugely important, because trust me, while you're in the middle of cutting out, you think, oh, I'll never forget. Yeah, you will. And then you'll look at it and go, what was I supposed to do with this? Remember that one quilt? I sent it out. I forget who I sent it out to. And it was like no instructions, no anything. And I had no clue what I was doing with it. And I forget who won it. In fact, that's another thing to tell you. I still have some UFO things to give away. And I hope to be doing it soon. But we've had a couple little surprises lately, so it might take me a little longer, another couple weeks before I can get those shipped out. But I am, and I will show you all of the UFOs I have. We'll do a drawing to be fair, and you'll get to choose which UFO you'd like to give a new home and finish. And because that's my new thing. I am not going to let projects sit around and bog you down. Have you ever noticed that the word should is a bad word? Should comes with a lot of shame. Okay, so watch your vocabulary. And, well, maybe I'll do it right before I go on my trip. And, but that's a good time too, because then by the time I get back, you'll have it. But I should is a negative word, and it has a lot of shame to it. Oh, I should go on a diet. Oh, I should finish that. Oh, I should. It's kind of a defeating word. So we don't use should. If you do want to finish it, I will finish this at some point. That's much better. And then if you don't like the thing anymore, give it away. There are so many people who would love it. When I used to do trunk shows, and I haven't done a trunk show in a few years, but when I used to do them, I would make sure to take a quilt top, a floppy, that I didn't like anymore. I didn't want to take the time to quilt it. And so I would hold it up and say, does anybody like this? Because I have problems with this quilt, and this is why. Somebody inevitably, the first person I saw raise their hand, I would say, then it's yours, and I'd toss it to them. And they were shocked that I was giving them a quilt top. But what I have learned in this life is do not hold on to things that drag you down. And, you know, this has been a big life-changing year for me, and I can speak from experience that when I actually counted how many UFOs, I'm like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding. And just in case you're still wondering, it was 64, okay? And that doesn't include kits that I haven't started. That's just things I've started that I haven't finished. And, but I looked at that and said, you know what? I'm going to give away things that I just don't like anymore. It could be a color that became really popular 15 years ago, but I don't like it anymore. Give it away. Somebody else might still love it. So, because we're all different. I just was looking at this sitting. Miss Bonnie gave it to me, and I was just looking at it. I thought, I'm going to share that with y'all. I just think that is so cute. So, anyway, but I will be giving some away because every time I take a UFO that no longer does it for me and I pass it on, do you know what I feel? I feel happy because now I can give a gift to someone and then I feel relieved. That weight comes off my shoulders. Now it's somebody else's monkey. I love saying that phrase. A counselor taught me that. Let me show you. The phrase is, not my circus, not my monkeys. And I love this. I love this because I keep telling myself when I feel compelled to take on more than I should, I say, not my monkey. And like my ex, not my monkey. Whatever he does, whatever happens, not my monkey. And if I had a circus, I don't want that monkey. So anyway, okay. So make sure you have cut out your pieces and then you start with your square. So by next week, what I'm going to do is I'll have a square cut out. And I spent this week looking at fabrics until I realized what the new camper tires are going to cost. I looked at new fabrics and was trying to think, well, if I did another binding tool star, because normally I never do anything more than once, but the binding tool star is so much fun. I looked around at fabrics and I was really thinking, am I going to do another one? If I do, I've got to finish it because, I'm not going to add anything more to my UFOs. And when it came right down to it, I said, I'm not in the mood to start that new. I guess because I've just started the mosaic and the garden gate. And I've got things I want to get done. I've got a little blanket I want to get ready to take to my grandson, Russell. So I'm just kind of not in the mood. And then having to spend almost $4,000 on camper tires will surely just kind of, I could feel my checkbook shrink up. And I went, can't do it. So anyway, so next week I will, now that I know, I can't do many to show you, but I will have a square and show you how to work with these. But the main thing is take all of your right hand star points and go ahead and sew your background 2.5-inch square to the bottom of them. Press it to the dart, and then you'll start by laying out your background square and sewing each. What you have to do, I do remember this, you sew your left hand side on the square first. Then that way when you go to sew your right hand square on, having this in addition to the square gives you the length needed to sew your right hand piece with the little square on it. See? It all just meshes and you keep them in line. Don't expect them because the points face out. Don't expect them to keep jogging out. No, they sew in a straight line, which is kind of surprising. But that straight line gives you the long side of that triangle. It gives you a nice smooth place. But if you do it in the right order, follow your pattern, then everything will fit like a glove. Before I go to 6 tires. And before you say, why are 6 tires so expensive? They're truck tires. And truck tires have been in short supply during the COVID pandemic. So, and you know what? I don't want to drive that camper if I don't have new tires. The tires we know are at least 9 years old. but more likely they could be original. And I'm sorry, that is, it's an accident waiting to happen. Truly, literally, literally. So we need to get it done. Got to get it done. So anyway, it's one of those years. I pay off all my medical bills, and now then something else pops up. But I did take all 3 dogs to the vet Friday. They all had very good checkups. Everybody's doing good. One of them might need a dent. She needs a dental at some point coming up, but but otherwise they're all doing great. So that was really good news. And make sure you get a veterinarian you like and who isn't over the top with. I don't like vets that constantly want to do all kinds of expensive tests and get one that has good common sense. So okay. Hi, I always forget Polly's, not far by. I use Winston Vet, Dr. Schill. And there's also, oh gosh, what is his name? I've forgotten the other vet's name, but Winston Vet on Indiana Avenue. And I've used them now for 11 years and love them. They're so practical. I had a different vet when I was in Clemens. And one day, Polly, when we have lunch, I'll give you the story to that. But it didn't end well. Animal Art. Yeah, they're expensive, but they're good. I went to a different one, and I was not pleased with something they did. So, okay. I think I wanted to tell you real quick. The first binding tool quilt I made, I saw it at a Block of the Month meeting, fell so in love with it. I made it, including the quilting, in 2 weeks' time. Now, I was a banshee and I was working on it from morning to night, but it's that easy and fun. It's one of these addictive quilts where you just follow step 1, step 2, step 3. Take care of yourself, Miss Kathleen Ziegler, honey. Take care. So it's just one of those quilts, and it's so dramatic. Depending on the fabrics you choose will depend on what kind of outcome you have with it. But each of mine are so different looking. So you see that one, and when we do the photos, I'll show you my daughters. My daughters will probably always be our family favorite, and I'm not a scrappy person, but I use the happiest scrappy fabric. Here is my pastel and white one. Let me see. And it's a big quilt. I gotta be honest. Now there are ways you can just make the center star, and if you were to shrink your binding tool shape, you could make a smaller one. But then you have to, whatever size you shrink your binding tool star shape, like if you shrink it down to 1.5 inches, then all of your binding tool star points have to then be only 1.5 inches and probably shorter. Yeah, shorter too. So it's a lot of figuring to make it smaller because your triangles and your squares all have to be made smaller. But anyway, each one has a different personality. And so I'm looking forward to finishing both of these so I can have them and enjoy. All right. I think it's time. I did say I finished it in 2 weeks. It's a lot of fun to do. And then once you get a binding tool star under your belt, then the French braid quilts. I made a French braid quilt upstairs. I'll have to show you soon. And I love it. And once you have made a binding tool star, that French braid, it's right in that same family. And you can have a lot of fun. All right, let us check your photos. Let's see what we've got. I hoped if you sent one today, Michelle. Oh, honey, I remember you getting that puppy. Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. I guess how old was that puppy? Maybe 9? Oh, honey, no. I don't know. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. That's got to be tough. because they become part of your family. Oh, I remember she was an active puppy. Oh, come on, computer. I've noticed my laptop's doing this funny thing right now where it, if I move the screen, it wants to cut off. And this is my new computer, so it better not act up. But, oh, Michelle, we're so sorry. Okay, let me keep this up. Now bring up the photos. All right, let's see what we've got. I know we have a new one from Miss B. I'm excited. Okay, here is Miss Alexis. She entered this one, Snapdragon, entered it into a college show, which I'm so proud of her about, because you know what? It's hard to get brave enough to enter things because it takes a lot to win anything, and you're putting yourself out there. But I always tell myself that I am so happy just seeing my work out there being displayed. I love that. So way to go, Miss Alexis. I'm proud of you for putting yourself out there, hon. All right, now let me see. Then Miss B, I can't wait to see this one. I saved it, but I didn't have time to look at it. Let's see. Oh, look at this. She said she wanted to do a quilt that showed us what her part of England looks like. And let me tell you what, it is beautiful. She did this by hand. The sheep are done with a whole bunch of French knots, and then it's all hand work. She used fabrics and did some painting of the fabrics, and then did hand stitches, thread painting. This is what I love about England, is the way the fields are divided by hedgerows or walls, and they're just lovely. We have a lot we could learn about using the hedgerow system, because you have to use less pesticides. You encourage birds and small animals to live in the hedgerows, and they feed on the insects. So it's really wonderful. It's a much better ecosystem. So thank you for that, Miss B. It is beautiful. Way to go, hon. Love it. Okay. Then Miss Betty, and hopefully Miss Betty's still here, because I just love her quilt, her landscape quilt. Look at that. Isn't that just beautiful? I had someone ask, is that a photograph? Because it is so gorgeous and so realistic looking. So way to go, Miss Betty. I'm so proud of you. Then here is a landscape quilt, nighttime landscape. And the moonlight just sparkles off of that quilt. I just love it. Okay, let's see who else we have now. We have Miss Bonnie has a wonderful quilt she did for the quilt testing, and I just love it. And she machine appliqued her hearts onto the background. I think that is so sweet. Way to go, Miss Bonnie. Beautiful. We're so lucky to have people like her, quilt testers, who check patterns to make sure there aren't any mistakes before we get them. And because, there's nothing worse. Whoops, now I made it too big. There's nothing worse than getting all your fabric cut out and then finding, there was a mistake in the pattern. And then you have to cut it out all over again or go buy more fabric. So quilt testers are very valuable. I love this. And this is a stained glass quilt that Charlene made. Just beautiful. And it even glows in the window. So that's wonderful. All right. Let's see who else. Miss Cheryl Lemon has been on a jag of doing cross stitch. And I say, if that's what's floating your boat right now, I would stick with that. That is wonderful. And isn't it nice when the kids are all grown and the job is behind us, that we can choose what we want to do with our time? to me, that is the compensation for having the creaky joints and the sore, tired backs. But, okay, and look at all of these. They're just lovely. Way to go, Miss Cheryl. All right, now let's see where else we're going. I don't think I have too much. Oh, I've got to show you my daughter's quilt. This is my daughter's binding tool quilt. And I wish you could see it in person. There's something, I did scraps of fabric, but boy, did it just go together. And I love the binding tool quilt because it has nice big areas that you can quilt in. And boy, the quilting can make the quilt. Here is how I cut out the flowers for the garden gate quilt. I made them individually, then glued them onto black background fabric, and then cut them out with an 8-inch rim of black fabric to make them look like they are stained glass pieces. Here is how I did the mosaic fabric. I took the sheets of Steamacine 2, and then I tore strips. Depending the size of the strip depends on how much of it, that color I need. And then I ironed the fabric onto the sticky side. Then when you take off the back paper, then you're ready to put them on the fabric and iron them down. Up here is Mark and I, shot number 2. We are done. I'm so tickled. We had that done Tuesday, and, you know, okay, my arm was a little sore that night. I felt like I might be getting a cold. Then, boom, it was gone. And right here, I did this shadow line around the fish. But then when I started working on this, I said, nope, it's going to be too busy. So go back and just put your mosaics right up to the fish, okay? No shadow lines anymore, because that's what that was. If you notice on the drawing, there's this wiggly line going around these shapes. That was supposed to be a shadow. But I said, nope, edit, Deb. I tend to throw everything in, including the kitchen sink, and I have to learn to edit. There's my Russell. This is my granddaughter, Charlotte, my grandson, Evan, and they're helping their mom make enchiladas for dinner. And they are so cute together. She's 16, he's 13, and they have the best time. They don't even realize it, but when they do dishes or cook together, they'll be giggling, and here are their enchiladas that they made. Love it. And it's 2 separate pans. Probably we had to make sure in one pan, my daughter can't have dairy. And my granddaughter can't have gluten, so they have to cook twice as much. And here's Russell, and here is my little Donnie, and I will be meeting Donnie in just a couple weeks, so I can't wait. All right, I think that's all for me this week. Now let's see who else. We've got some great stuff. Dolores and her bird quilts. I can't wait to hear about what it felt like to see her bird quilt in the show. But does she do such a beautiful job embroidering these and even giving the feeling of bark on the actual branches? Just gorgeous. Way to go, Miss Dolores. You're so talented. So talented. Look how she did the lichens on the branches. So talented. I guess that's a rainbow bunting, and I'm not sure. This might be the female rainbow bunting. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, Diana Wright. She did an attic window quilt. Beautiful, beautiful. She makes it look easy. She always does. She works very hard. And then I had to show one more time her wonderful, wonderful shrimp rolls. Talented woman all around. She's one of these Renaissance people. I mean, she's got so much intelligence, and she has taught herself just gobs and gobs of talent. So, wanted to just show you Miss Jody's Alice in Wonderland quilt. This is gorgeous. I love her eye for detail. Just beautiful. And look how she did the outline of the chain that lets you know exactly what that is. And then the pocket watch. That is gorgeous. Way to go, Miss Jody. All right. Then she now has started on her garden gate. And she was one of the couple people who gave me some good ideas for how to make my garden gate quilt prettier. And I love all the batiks she used that give it a stained glass look. Her gate picket fabric, she turned it to the back so it wouldn't be as dark, but it would still have that texture. And I love it. The back side of the fabric is just as valid as the front side. And now here are her fabrics. Now I kind of cheated and I put all my flower petals and just laid it on black. She did each individual petal. That's amazing. Way to go, Miss Jody. She loves what she does. She's a true artist, and she does all of her work to the best of her ability, I can tell. Then was this Kathleen? I'll have to look when I shrink it up, but she has done a stained glass style quilt. Just gorgeous. Okay, yep, that's Kathleen. All right, then Linda. I have a couple still in Linda's folder. And Linda is a true artist, and she does painting on fabric, on paper, and loves cutting things out and composing artwork. And it is just beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. I have a feeling she's one of these people that has to keep her hands busy. And then this is a springtime. Whoops, not that big, Deb. Look at this. Spring comes and these bluebirds. And this looks like ink drawing and watercolor painting in the background. It's just beautiful. Then she cuts her birds out and puts it on her composition. All right. Let's now see Miss Nadine. I think I've got a few things up here from Miss Nadine. This time of year, it's hard to pin Miss Nadine down because it is spring. It is time to get the garden in shape. It is time to take care of all the animals. So we understand that we might not see much of Miss Nadine for a while. But that's okay. She's just got very busy. She'll come back, especially for winter. I know that. But she loves to garden. And I know that that's the best part of spring is getting out in the sunshine, the warm air, and feeling the soil beneath your hands. It's just, I never wore gloves, or still never do. Never wear gloves gardening because I want to feel the earth, and it's just a spiritual thing for me. I love she was doing hand sewing, which she said she would never do, and then this is the beginning of a spring quilt that she has been working on. So Miss Nadine, have fun out in that garden. She has a lovely garden, a couple ponds, everything. Just gorgeous. Okay. And this is the newest funny from Miss Patricia Fry. Oh my gosh, that is cute. And as messy as my room is right now, that hit home. That truly hit home. In fact, what I've been noticing since I've been doing this channel, the room never gets fully cleaned. I make a really good stab at it, and then I get so busy again, it just gets messed up again. So I never fully get it clean. This is Patricia from Nova Scotia, and she is a weaver. Isn't that amazing? And look at all of her yarns. So when she does some of her art quilts, she's going to have a lot of supplies to choose from. Just beautiful. And I finally happened to catch what she said this is. This is the diamond painting, with the little tiny micro dots. I'm impressed. I'm very, very impressed. Way to go. That's a lot of dedication. All right. I'm sure you didn't hear me yawn again. And here's Miss Polly. Miss Polly taught herself. Miss Polly taught herself. Hold on just a second. Okay. Miss Polly taught herself how to paper piece. Ah. Okay. Miss Polly taught herself how to paper piece, and she wanted to work on a New York beauty quilt. And ready? Let's see. Here it is. Look at this. I love it. I love her colors, everything. That is stunning. And she wants you to believe she's a new quilter. I'll tell you what, she's something else, isn't she? Way to go, Miss Polly. There is a big artist heart in that woman. Now let's see who else. Susan. Oops, I heard a funny sound. I'm hoping that everything is still working. All right. Miss Susan has been busy. She said she's got her quilt mojo going again. Isn't that cute? Look at that. An Easter runner with the little truck in the middle. That's so cute. I love her handwork. I think this might be the farmer's wife quilt. I'm not sure. Look at the beautiful even stitches on the back. And here is her row by row, what she's got of it so far. Wonderful. So, and then up, this is right. This is the farmer's wife blocks that she has gotten done. She has been so busy working on quilt testing too. So, way to go, Miss Susan. Oh, I closed out the pictures. Didn't mean to. I think we're almost done anyway, but I want to go back one more time. Let's see. Susie Blake. I love these little handwork things she's doing. And if you ever find that your creativity is having a slump, try doing one of these this looks like a needle book, something like that. But try doing something small, something different, and see if you can't get your love of creating back. They are gorgeous. Love them, love them, love them. Okay? And let me see. I do think that's the last one. All right, that is it. Okay. All right, so hopefully you're still here. I didn't lose you because sometimes, in my old laptop, when I would go to turn it around, the connector in the laptop would lose the connection from the internet and I'd lose y'all. Thank you, Laura, for mentioning that. Let me see real quick. I don't know. I think I can do this. I have got the cutest little video of, let me see, of my grandsons playing. So let me see if I can bring this up. Okay, well, oh, no, I don't think I'm seeing it. Oh, poo. Let me see. No, I don't see it right offhand. So I will try to see if I can have it brought up, downloaded for you next time. Any question? Oh, an email, Sue Smith. I didn't get them, Sue. If you could send them again for me, I'd be really happy. I'm just going to peek real quick while we're sitting here and make sure I didn't overlook them because that sounds familiar. But no, I do not have them, sweetie. Oh, wait a minute. No, I don't have them. I have your folder right here and it's empty. I'm sorry. If you could send them again, I would love it because we love seeing what you do. So thank you, thank you. Oh, Mary Moo Cows, that's cute. The quilt was fun, but the binding. You know what? We'll have to get together. Once you've had your second shot and you're good and I'm good, we'll get together and sew. You know what would be fun? I'm not sure how brave you are, but we could get together and sew on a live stream. Sit here and just chat back and forth and enjoy everybody. It means I'll have to get my room clean because I don't want you to see it like it is. You know, I love when company comes over. It gives you all the impetus to get that house clean. Then when company leaves, you go, ah, boy, it sure looks great around here. So anything else? Anything else? Oh, that's Barbara Brackman's block of the month. I gotcha. That's wonderful. All righty. Well, as you can tell, I'm getting a wee bit tired. Yes, Polly, we will definitely get together and maybe we'll make a short section of video or do a surprise live stream. And that would be such fun. People would get tickled. So we'll have to have projects we can work on. So, all righty. It will be nice for me because I miss sewing with my Michelle. So that would be nice. Aw. Oh, that is so cool. That's the nicest thing about being on this group is we do find new friends. So it's wonderful. All right. I think I have talked myself into a nap. And, Alberta, there's Alberta Conti. We have two Albertas, and one came from Alabama, and then my Alberta Conti is in Southern Maryland. And I've got to, when I get my exact dates that I'm coming up there, I'll let Alberta know in case we can try to meet real quick. That would be nice. All right, everybody. You're so wonderful. Laura, we're thinking about you this week, sweetheart. We'll keep you real close to our heart. And I hope you're going to try one of these, either the binding tool, the garden gate, or the mosaic quilt. Because let me tell you, I love these quilts. Each one of them has something real special in it. And don't forget, if you want hold on, our time to quilt at twc.com. Whoops, COM, Deb, not space OM. And feel free to send me an email to that, and I will send you either instructions for the binding tool, but you buy the pattern online at Missouri Star Quilts, or I will send you my free patterns for the garden gate and the mosaic koi. Okay? So thank you so much for being here with me today. And there's the binding. There's one binding tool before we go. I want you to have a great week. Please consider your vaccine if you haven't taken one. And with all I've had going this year, I sailed through my vaccine. Now I had my second one this week. Piece of cake. We didn't even know the woman gave us the shot, except we felt something touch our arm. I said, that's that easy? I was going to go home and milk this for all it's worth, but that was way too easy. She said, well, just show me your Band-Aid. So anyway, thank you to Walgreens for participating in this vaccine. Thank you for President Biden for getting over 200 million vaccines in arms in such a short time. And thank you to you for holding my hand this past year. It has been a tricky year, but we're coming through it. Come on, people. Pull together that little bit more, okay? Have a great week. Do something special for yourself. I told Mark in a couple weeks I'm going to the movies. I've had my vaccine, and as soon as my immunity is up to the top, I haven't been to a movie in a year and 2 months. I miss going to see a movie. So take great care of yourself. Tonight's the Oscars. It might give me a hint of what to go see when I do get to see a movie. take good care and do something special just for you. Bye-bye, everybody. See some of you Thursday. That's right. That is right. So get out in that sunshine and fresh air. That can do you a world of good. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody. Stay safe. Bye-bye.